I am Dr. Angela Crutchfield.
Condition of an individual's employment. What does that mean? Yeah, exactly. You're fired, and I'm fired because of what?
Not choosing to play ball.
Yeah, that could be a problem. Not choosing to play ball. That could be a problem.
Personal growth during this journey. What was the biggest aha moment?
Oh, wow. I had a lot of aha moments, but I think one that I had a lot, and we would talk all day about my aha moments, but I think one thing that stood out the most to me that I really wanted to make sure I mentioned, and I did mention it here, to hear in multiple ways people say, Angela, I've died in my organization because I'm never given an opportunity and I'm sitting in my cubicle dead. And they even equated it specifically to the death of George Floyd. I feel like I am George Floyd lying on the ground with a white man's knee in my neck. That was powerful to me because I know that's a space that a space of discomfort, a space of transparency, and there was a lot of emotion in what I was hearing from people. And so often we see all of these things depicted on the news and don't realize the same depictions are taking place in the workplace day in and day out for people who look like me. So those were powerful confirmations, I would say, confirmational moments for me that the lifestyle coaching that I do, the leadership development I do for women is right on point because it's needed.
Good morning, everyone. I am a stickler about starting my seminars on time. So we are starting on time and hopefully others will continue to join us. I want to say welcome to each of you for, and thank you also for joining me for our workshop on the art of affirmations. I want to get going with a little information before I move into the specifics of the art of affirmations. I really want to talk just a little bit about how this workshop docks into the bigger picture of what I do, and a piece, the title, PESSCE, is a derivative from the first letters of 6 life streams, as I call them: physical, emotional, spiritual, social, career, and economic wholeness, or financial wholeness. We oftentimes live our lives in disconnect, and we forget that we have to focus on all of those areas to ensure that we have true peace. And true peace can be unlimited if we take the time to look at those aspects of our lives and not separate them. It's not about perfection, but it's about understanding that which challenges us, that which impacts us in all of those areas. Leadership consulting and coaching and training, which all falls under the umbrella of transformational HR for me, which includes a lot of diversity and inclusion work, and also lifestyle coaching and training, which is what this particular workshop docks into. And that lifestyle training, a lot of what I do targets and focuses on women, and particularly women of color.
Hello, I'm Dr. Angela Crutchfield. When I think of Afrofuturism, I think of a core capability that we all possess, something that gives us our superpower. Yep, I said it. We have a superpower. Let me explain. The power of the imagination is our superpower as human beings. The awe-inspiring superpower of imagination is something we can deploy at our will. This ability we have as human beings allows us to represent information that is not currently in the environment to be, right? The executive function of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, gives us the ability to imagine or think about things that aren't immediately present in our senses. This is a superpower.
As you said, it's something good to feel good about.
It really is. And I've got another thing that I feel really good about, and that's the leadership that we have, both at Riverside, but also the leaders that we've had here in the United States. And I really wanted to introduce one of my colleagues, Dr. Angela Crutchfield, who is our Vice President of Inclusion and Diversity at Riverside Community Care, to tell you some free access that you can have next week. Hello, Dr. Angela.
Hello, Dr. Joe. How are you?
I'm great. And how are you?
I am wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
So tell us a little bit about what's happening next week.
Well, I am happy to tell you about that and happy to be a part of your Feel Good Friday because I'm feeling good this Friday. So, very important hero of the civil rights movement, Dr. Clarence B. Jones. You know, a lot of people know Dr. King, but Dr. King surrounded himself with some amazing people. And Dr. Jones drafted and organized Dr. King's famous I Have a Dream speech, among others.
Wow.
He's
Okay.
currently
The Last of the Lions. I am looking forward to reading your memoirs, Dr. Jones. I want to say thank you. I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and I look forward to all that you're going to share in that work. And I think it's going to be something that is of value to so many people to get a greater glimpse into Dr. King's life and you and your experiences and your journey. 93 years.
Let me just say something in the interest of time.
Yeah.
Dr. Crutchfield, if he were alive today, he would do like me. He would start to cry. Because I look at you and I say to myself, my, oh my, if he could, if Martin King were alive and had the blessing and opportunity to meet and talk to people of your generation, as I have, there must be a reason I've been alive, and even is to witness people of your generation. There's more than one Angela Crutchfield out there. Okay, I don't know them all, and Martin never had a chance to know them, but I'm here for a reason. And you and your generation give me a gift that I don't deserve to have alone. I wish I had a gift that I could share with him, but I can't. He's gone. But thank you on his behalf. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones. I appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you.
Ask you about the theoretical framework and perspective and how theory, concrete theory, whether it's critical race theory, there's a lot of Black feminist theorists that are out there that can also speak to these issues. And in what way did you integrate or inform your understanding of critical race theory, for instance, or thinking about Black feminists that have identified these for us for a long time, and we still are standing strong, and we still have very powerful voice in this arena. And I really think that that's important on a social level, on a personal level, as a cultural identity. In terms of identity, how do you use theory to not only inform our understanding, but to maintain our identity of who we are as Black women in the workplace?
So I actually took a different approach to it. I absolutely appreciate your thought about theory from that lens. My lens was from transformational leadership lens and from a self-assessment lens, and less on the perspective of the limitations that we know already exist in our present. So I think that is why there is limited amounts of theory from that lens that I've infused into the study, because I wanted to see if people could self-assess and say that, you know what, I don't show up as a trustworthy leader based on these 4 dimensions of trust, and what do I need to do differently? But of course, the study shows those things may show up as limiting self-imposed factors, but it's a result of exactly what you're talking about, the imposition of those things based on true theory that has already been studied. So for me, I took a different angle in that from that perspective.
Riverside is going well. A lot of effort. I think people are putting forth effort to be focused and trying and really see the need for change and really try and do that. So it's going well.
It's an honor. So,
yeah.
What can you tell us, Angela?
Well, I'll start to tag on to what you just said. Mark, you don't know you well, but I had an opportunity to look at a couple of your previous shows, and I really appreciate your segue during the conversation that you all were having about white privilege a few weeks back. How you, and I want to talk a little bit more about that as well, but this specific point that you transitioned back in that dialogue about Joe and Zoom and as kids back in the 70s, and you said it's been 50 plus some odd years, if I remember correctly, and why are we not there yet? We've never been there. That's the problem. There have been pockets of goodness, like what Joe described with his Zoom younger colleagues back in that very insular world that was created in that Zoom cast and on that set, but that may not have been fully reflective of the experiences and the world for some of those young people of color outside of that bubble, right? And I'm sure, and I didn't watch the full episode with your union group, but I'm sure they gave a clear depiction of the life path that they've been on that was probably far different than someone would have ever thought of young people who were, come on, Zoom, come on, Zoom, come on, right? You know, very different life outside of there, right? Yeah. So understanding that we've never been there is a first step, and really understanding and learning and educating ourselves to raise awareness. And that discomfort is going to come for people. And Joe, during the same conversation, you talked about, gave an example, and I'm going to try not to call you up, but I'm going to have to. I'm sorry, Joe. You used the example of toilet paper, right? And going into a store and toilet paper not being available. Very, very, very accurate depiction of experience and how that time frame when things were not available, or when we've had to all start standing outside in line to go in the store, that put us all on common ground, right? But there was a slight little bit in there that kind of bothered me a little bit that I need to say to you. You know, it almost, as you were going in a good place until it felt like you were equating the experience of not having access to the toilet paper to more of a poverty experience, meaning, you know, as a person with white privilege, it's like we're the haves and the have-nots. That's not always necessarily the case, and equating, which is what we were talking about before we started the show tonight, equating poverty to a Black community is wrong. Mm-hmm. And that is what I got out of that tiny little bit, which speaks to what I've been trying to share with people. You've got to stop and think. What is your intent on what you're saying? What are the behavioral choices? Joe, you might remember this from my session. And then the impact. We judge ourselves by our intent, and others judge us by impact. So you got to go back and take the feedback and make different choices so that we can make sure that the impact we're trying to have. I got your point, Joe, because I'm going to think through it, but not everybody is going to always get your point, right? So it's about really taking the time to think about what is my intent and what I'm saying, because our words have power. What am I trying to say here, and what behavioral choices should I make to ensure I'm going to have the right impact?
Resources. I think the core of successful companies is human capital management. When you get that right, you're going to have a solid bottom line, you're going to have success, and you're going to do well as a company. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
You do? Yeah. Because it's true. And oftentimes leaders tend to forget that. So for you all, if you are new to HR as an addition to your work, if you are an actual HR practitioner just getting into it, or if you're a seasoned HR professional, this workshop will add value to you, because we're going to look at things from a very practical perspective. The foundational aspects of human resources would be what? Anybody know? Nope, fell off.